come out of there.
Yeah,
Maybe
Sam
the
Langford.
boxing nerds. Above all else, Sam Langford. Indeed, Sam Langford,
I thought he
underrated.
was from Canada or something.
Yes, yes, he's from Canada, and I know he fought a lot out of Massachusetts when he was here
All
in the
right.
states. But yeah, he was a hell of a fighter. He's often not mentioned much, and he should be mentioned more. I
Well, yeah,
think.
his nickname was Boston Tar Baby or something. I think.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Some call him the Boston Bone Crusher.
All right.
But yeah, so he kind of made his state or name
Bone
there
Crusher.
in that particular area. But he certainly should be mentioned more. I think it's unfortunate, of course,
Yeah.
him not getting that. If he would have gotten that shot at the world heavyweight title, which he likely would have won at any stage, then I think that he would be mentioned even more than what he
Even
is.
though he was not really a heavyweight, was he? Like
Yeah,
5 foot
he started from the
6.
lower weights and he scaled
Yeah.
all the way up to there. He wasn't a huge guy. He's about five
No.
seven.
Yeah, but he probably weighed like something like 180 or something, not
Yeah,
more. Yeah.
yeah. In all likelihood, yeah, probably somewhere around there. There are a few
Just
videos
like
of him out there.
Rocky. Yeah.
He's got some. He's had a big punch. He had a huge punch, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact. And he was fighting bigger guys. So I think just given his experience and having fought from all those weights and being able to the first to truly carry his power up the weights in that fashion, yeah, he was a hell of a fighter. And I
Yeah.
think that, as mentioned, he should be mentioned more. He's buried in Cambridge. Also, he's in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
All
Massachusetts.
right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Hmm.
So he learned this craft out there. Okay, good to go. Yeah, and he had more fights that I know that are listed on his record. Who knows? He
Oh
probably
yeah.
had 500 or more fights in all
Yeah.
actuality.
Those guys they fought like once every like 2 3 days back then.
Yeah, it's insane thinking about it now, because
Yeah.
guys, you're lucky if you see guys fight twice a year these
Yeah.
days, let alone twice in a week.
Yeah, I know it's really crazy to think about. You have
Yeah,
like a guy defending his title, a champion, like 3 times a month or something. That was
yeah,
amazing.
that is insane. And they had a
Yeah,
harder path to get to that title because, of course, it was only one. You didn't have these options of going to get one of the alphabet titles. You only had one chance, and that was if you were to get a shot at the champion at the time, the
yeah,
heavyweight champion, which was you had to go through a gauntlet of other fighters to get there. And the sport was bigger, more were competing at that particular time. And yeah, it's just interesting times. Of course, I like looking back on the historic stuff,
yeah,
and yeah, those guys were built a little bit different, and that's why it's hard to make the comparison sometimes in fantasy fights, especially
yeah.
when for individuals who tend to just automatically assume that the modern fighter would defeat the older fighter just by virtue of the same sort of stance that goes about like, hey, we're more nutrition, athletes are bigger, stronger, better. I
Mm,
think that to a certain degree that is the case, but I think you have to look at it from the parallels of where they were at that particular time. Like if someone was great back then, they would
the
be just as
hunger,
great.
the hunger was greater, back then. These guys they get too much, too much money. They get too much everything. They get
Yeah,
spoiled, so fast, and
yeah,
especially after they become champions, also.
yes, yes,
So
definitely.
it's like, oh no, I'm not fighting unless I get like 5 million or something, three
Yeah,
million.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. Think of
yeah,
guys, not to just single them out, but think of guys like Danny Garcia, who was really grinding it out. But once he became champion, then he was more so. He's like, I would say, in
yeah,
his early days as champion, his earlier fights, yeah, he still offered a little something. But then there at that tail end, it seems that Danny wasn't as concerned about like the
yeah.
the the legacy stuff or whatever. I think he kind of took some of those ladder fights just because those are really the only big payday options out there for him. But yeah,
Yeah,
you tend to get some of that with these guys
that
today for
really,
sure.
yeah. I mean, it really kind of destroys you as a fighter because when you start looking at the money only, the main motivation to keep fighting. It's not really gonna make you any better as a fighter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, those guys, wanted to get paid back then. It was a living for them, and but they were sort of grinding and going through the gauntlet a bit more than what you see today. It's just different times. Xavier the Boxing
Mm.
there listed Langford traveled on a steamboat for a month to go to Australia. Yes, like stuff like that, you have to certainly factor in. Today, you can take a flight to get there, but imagine traveling on a steamboat to get to
Wow.
a faraway country or yes, continent really. So yeah, get to a faraway
Indeed.
continent to try and fight. And I know a lot of times when they got out there to these locations, they would just commit in a number of fights. Like, hey, since I'm in the area, I want to take on all of the top guys who are here in this particular spot.
Yeah. So he fought in Australia also.
Yeah,
Wow.
yes, he did. He
That
did.
was really far out.
Yeah, I know that there was I don't I can't recall if it was actually in Australia, but I know that that's where Jack Johnson had traveled in order to defeat Tommy Burns, and
Oh
he was able to
yeah.
get the fight out there. But there may have been a potential in that particular instance for Langford to fight Johnson in order to get that title shot. And they had fought, once, but Langford was at a smaller weight. And this was
Yeah.
really, when he was first starting out, or he was, yeah, I can't remember if he was first starting out, but he hadn't really been competing at heavyweight like that, and he was smaller than Johnson weight wise at that particular time. But yeah, there was supposed to be some deal in place for Langford to fight
Wow.
Jack Johnson, but Jack Johnson didn't allow for it to happen. He kind of just
Yeah.
shied away from it because he knew that that would be a tough task, and he likely wouldn't have had that belt for long if he actually fought the likes of Langford, like Sam McVeigh and Joe Jeanette, while he had
Yeah.
the actual belt. So
Yeah.
so
He
that
didn't.
benefited him.
Johnson hardly fought any black fighters. I mean, after he became the champion, yeah. But even before that, I think he maybe had fought, well, a few only. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Sydney, Australia. Yeah, so yeah, it would have been made for definitely an interesting tweak to history. Um,
yeah,
I agree. Xavier the boxing nerd Johnson and Langford was scheduled to fight in France around 1914, but Jack got on the boat. Yeah,
escape.
yeah. Yeah, I did read about that. Yeah, Johnson avoided it at all costs. And I know he used the excuse of there not being enough interest and money in him fighting some of the other black heavyweights that are out there. But that being said, he sort of backed out on a commitment that he did have, and it's
Hmm,
unfortunate.
yeah, that's. I think they fought once. I think I read, and Johnson won on points, and that's all. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I mentioned. Yeah, Langford was Johnson was heavier than Langford in that fight.
yeah,
So
right,
the version of Langford when he had filled out a bit more at heavyweight, then I think
yeah.
that would have
That's
posed
the
some
one
problems.
Johnson was running from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But a lot of guys didn't want to face Langford like that. That's why he had to fight some of the other top
yeah.
black heavyweights at that time multiple times.